Civil defense is government operating in an emergency.
Mr. Mayor now. Morning, Mr. Mayor.
Morning.
The situation looks pretty bad right now. We don't know exactly what's happening, but we do have planes over Alaska and Canada.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard the reports that enemy planes are approaching. In less than 3 hours, an H-bomb might fall over Portland. Mr. Jack Lowe, our Civil Defense Director, will coordinate activities here. Jack, what's the situation?
Mr. Mayor, according to our latest reports from CONAD, enemy planes are still headed this way at 450 knots. That will put them just about there on the Alaska-Canadian border. I'd say we still have about 2.5 hours if Portland is where they intend to make a drop.
What's the condition of the evacuation movement now?
Well, we have very scanty reports now because it's only been 15 minutes, but we can check with the police and with the traffic engineer and see if we get what information we have. I have no information yet as to how it's progressing.
By 10:55, the heads of utilities, Red Cross, military liaison, Civil Air Patrol, Weather Bureau, and all city departments are functioning as a civil defense team. While city commissioners and bureau heads remain behind working with their departments at the emergency seat of government, their families are among those evacuating. By 11, the operations officer is receiving reports on the evacuation of the city, and he is the reporter of the day, traffic, time, weather, and in the operations center's broadcast studio, the time is...
The time is 11:10. This is an official civil defense broadcast. Enemy aircraft are over Canada and headed this way. Normal broadcasting has been discontinued until after this emergency has passed. You are now tuned to Conelrad and will receive official information and instruction on this frequency. Keep your radio tuned to this frequency. Remember, there is a traffic plan for the evacuation of the city. All cars in the downtown area must follow the green lights. They will lead you out of the danger area by the quickest route. Do not try to cross the flow of traffic. Follow the green lights. Turn with traffic. Proceed with care.
John Carpenter, a sportscaster, becomes the warning voice. The people of Portland know his voice. Trust it. In 1955, Portland held a practice mass evacuation. The heart of the city was cleared in 34 minutes. It's safe to say that practice evacuation will be responsible for saving a great many lives this day. Should a bomb fall, many will be killed. The more that move out of the city, the greater the chances of survival. Pedestrians are helped out of the city. The great dangers are jam-ups and bottlenecks. Whirling over the city, a police helicopter reports traffic movement to the operations center.
Copter 1 to dispatcher. Copter 1 to dispatcher.
Copter 1, go ahead.
Barbara and Slavin traffic moving very slowly, bumper to bumper. Suggest 1 or 2 lanes be diverted east on Hamilton. Over.
10-4, 1131.
And at 11:32, at the operations center, Police Chief Hillbrunner receives a suggestion, and with traffic engineer Fred Fowler, he works out a way to divert traffic. Motorcycle policemen are sent to split the load onto a side road. There's no way of knowing if Portland actually is an enemy target. But with 3 hours of warning and the time fading fast, it's vital that all roads lead to safety, that all roads be kept open, allowing people to evacuate from the potential target area. Meantime, county and state police halt and divert incoming traffic away from the target area. Should a bomb fall, fire and utility equipment must be available to move back into the city to restore services. And so trucks of all sizes and of all varieties speed to points outside the city by a detailed plan. By 11:45, the men and equipment have arrived at the dispersal areas away from the target. Auxiliary police and auxiliary firemen are also in action.
This is serious business, man. We anticipate attack. Secure your vehicles as best you can. Turn off the ignition. Put on the tarps on the fire apparatus. Take the radiation instruments with you. Move immediately to dispersal area. Move as quickly as you can to dispersal cover. I say again, move to dispersal cover.
Around the dispersal area, in local public buildings, emergency kitchens are in operation. Rumors are everywhere. Facts are hard to find. But back underground, at the operations center, with time running out, only facts are considered.
According to information we have just received from Western Air Defense Command, the situation remains the same. Enemy aircraft are still approaching in this direction. If they continue on this same course, we can expect an attack in this area any time after 21:47 Greenwich time. That is 1:47 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And now I would like a brief situation report from all departments on how we stand. First, John, what is the fallout situation?
Well, Jack, according to our latest weather information, the winds will continue in a northeasterly direction at about 10 knots. Let's face facts, gentlemen. If we have a blast on target, downtown Portland, it will be hours and probably days before we can get back in.
Engineering, Gordon Burt.
We have reports that 80% of the city-owned and public utility equipment have been successfully evacuated from the city. However, there is one group of electric company trucks caught on the west side. We're working now on a plan to get them out.
Fire Department, Chief Simpson.
The fire department's initial dispersal plan is in effect. Several units have already moved out to their respective dispersal points. Engine 24 and Engine 30 are currently fighting a residential fire, and they will stay on the job until this fire has been controlled.
Police, Chief Hillbruner.
As for police activities, the city is about 65% evacuated. Traffic appears to be moving at about 15 miles an hour outbound. The state and county police have set up an effective roadblock diverting inbound traffic, thus enabling us to use all lanes for outbound traffic.
Emergency medical, Dr. Metter.
City hospitals are continuing to evacuate. Emergency hospital units are functioning in Forest Grove and Mount Angels. Others should be heard from soon. You might be interested in knowing that en route, one boy and twins were born.
Gus Lang, welfare.
As the reports continue, it is obvious that the Portland plan is working smoothly. Only 7 years earlier, Portland had no civil defense. It was then that the idea that civil defense was not to be separated from normal government evolved. And in 1952, a 1 mil tax levy to finance the plan was put on the ballot by unanimous decision of the City Council. After civil defense leaders went out and campaigned, the people voted to tax themselves to protect themselves. And later, the city charter was amended to assure continuity of government, so that in an emergency like this, should the executive branch become casualties, they would automatically be replaced by a legally established line of succession of other experienced city officials. The people, as now and after the emergency, are assured of continuity of their government.
Schools report complete evacuation. There's no panic among the children. They've rehearsed this before. Reports from industries indicate approximately 90% evacuation. I think we're doing quite well.
And so, at 1:25, with some 22 minutes till 0 hour, Portland seems to be doing quite well. Should a bomb fall now, city officials and city services will be able to carry on. And meantime, vital messages are passed on to maintain contact with state and county headquarters.
Okay.
Captain W7SAA from W7BS.
Upstairs in this unique underground operations center, an emergency telephone system is functioning as the details of evacuation are reported and relayed. Part of the civil defense levy went to a comprehensive microfilming project supervised by Will Gibson, city auditor. More than 3 million documents and records that go back to the first handwritten city council minutes in 1851 have been microfilmed. Duplicates of laws and the engineering records without which the city cannot function are here. And so, in time of disaster, records are preserved. And now, with a moment to breathe, some can take time for coffee in a built-in cafeteria. It's time to talk of families which have been evacuated. And it's time to be alone and think of the future. And there's even time for those who need it now to rest. 300 can live here for a week, eat, sleep, and breathe. The operations center has its own water supply, its own electric power, even its own purified air. At 1:30, on this day called X, the air outside is strange and silent. Almost all its people have gone. And at 1:32, as directed by the mayor, the siren sounds once more. Take cover. The evacuation is stopped, and there is nothing to do but wait. Back in the operations center, the day called X reaches its climax.
Time now, 1:47. Enemy bombers are probably overhead.
What happened after that moment, we leave you to contemplate. But one thing is certain, Portland has a plan for the survival of its people and the continuity of its government. And you know, actually, the survival of this entire nation depends upon the ability of federal, state, and local governments to carry out their responsibilities in the event of a massive nuclear attack. Each new scientific development in the weapons of war presents a new challenge. And the people of Portland, through working together, they're ready. If there really were a day called X. How about you?
You're watching Sleepcore. Pleasant dreams.
So we backed up our argument with atoms. And when we moved into Japan a month or so later, we saw firsthand that we'd been mighty convincing. We saw a lot of this, and some of this. Sort of gave a guy the shakes. That is until he... What happened? Well, that got the idea across.
I'll have this gizmo fixed in a second.
Then put on something easier to take. A rootin' tootin' western, with men fighting it out the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, I know that Atom business. Why not? It's our business. You saw what happened in Japan. What if it happened here? What would you men do?
Well, that's easy. I'd go see a tailor.
Tailor?
Sure, have my uniforms altered. Have them cut to let my wings out. All God's children's got 'em, you know. I'd take music lessons. On the harp, naturally.
Well, Nah, that wouldn't do. I think I'd... You tell us.
Okay. Come on. Learn and live. Target for today. This doesn't represent any place in particular. It's typical, and it's important. For shipping, by both water and by rail. For factories. For its big business. It's the kind of a city an enemy would want to knock out. A spot where he might drop an egg, an atomic egg.
What an omelet that'd make. Yeah, with us in it, maybe.
But not necessarily. Look, I won't kid you about the A-bomb. I've seen what it can do in Japan, Bikini, and Eniwetok. It's deadly. It's like a woman.
That I'd have to see.
I mean, never underestimate its power. Don't lose your head, use it. Figure that an atomic bomb dropped on a large modern city like this might kill 50,000 people. That figure might be cut down considerably if folks were properly schooled in individual protection. Handle yourself right and you've got a good chance of coming through. Do the wrong things and you've got a future like an ice cube in a hot toddy. Get panicky and get hurt. Forget about such things as the proper outfits to wear. Light, loose clothes to protect you against flash heat. The enemy was thoughtless. He didn't send you a formal announcement of the big blowout. And you're no quick change artist. Suppose you're taken by surprise. And while we're supposing, let's go all the way. Figure that this is the real article, not just a model. And you're there. Okay, you're in this town and you're on it. Making the best of those three rights they can't take away from you. You're enjoying life. You're enjoying liberty. You're pursuing happiness. Whatever shape it comes in. You're doing all right. When... The other guy's around and he means business, so get going. Remember, you're off base. You've just got time to save yourself. Drop whatever you're doing. Find the nearest hole and make like a mole. A subway's okay. Stay out of flimsy buildings. They give bad protection. A basement's fine, preferably under a solid, well-constructed building. And the safest positions are near strong supporting columns or next to the walls, protected from falling bricks and 2x4s. If there's no underground shelter handy, pick a room in a good building close to the ground. It ought to be airtight and light-proof as possible, with the doors shut, windows closed, and blinds drawn. Back in 1940, London survived a terrific blasting from the Nazi bombers. And one of the reasons was that folks did just what I'm telling you now. It was pretty crowded down in those shelters. There wasn't much fresh air. There was more of it up above. But fresh air isn't important. Not unless you're still breathing. Do what those people did, and you're on the right track. World War II bombs were cream puffs compared to what you may be up against. But the defensive measures are about the same. The blast of an ordinary bomb kills and destroys. An A-bomb's kick is much worse. The old horse and buggy bomb was hot stuff. The A-bomb is hotter, so when you get the warning, don't stop to ask what's cooking. It might be you. The big idea, if you've got time enough to swing it, is to shield yourself by thick, strong, heavy material like reinforced concrete from the A-bomb's blast. And heat. Do that, and you'll also be protecting your hide from its radiations. A lot of people, including you men fairly new to the service, got the notion that radiations are like the double whammy turned on by Evil Eye Flegel, the comic strip character. Irresistible, I mean. Well, you're wrong. They're mighty penetrating and deadly, but they can be stopped. Authorities know exactly what it takes. Just what thickness of steel, concrete, or wood will do the trick. But you're no authority. Even if you were, you haven't got your tape measure or calipers with you. Even if you had them, you wouldn't have time to use them. You're just a guy trying to get along. And fast. A heavy wall between you and the source of the blast will cut off most of the radiation barrage. But you don't know where the source will be. And radiations can scatter and bounce off the air the way a basketball bounces off the backboard. What you want, then, is a spot that shields you above and all around. That's if you can find it without wasting time. Comfortable?
Not me. I've been figuring I got caught away from any of the shelters. Out in the open. So what do? Play dead?
Right. Or maybe you will be. If there was a ditch handy, you'd flop in it. But there isn't. So hit the dirt, like men did in World War II. Lie flat, face down. Cover the exposed parts of your body. The bomb's flash heat is rugged. Don't get curious and look around. Its light can blind you temporarily. You all with me? Fine. Now we're about as ready as we can be for the fireworks.
Bombs away.
Just one. I want you to visualize what would happen if the enemy somehow slipped it through our defenses. That it's about as powerful as the ones we used in Japan. And that he wants it to explode about 2,000 feet above the city. Right about here. The spot directly below the blast, which we call ground zero, is just that, a goose egg. A lot of nothing. And out to a mile or more, the destruction's terrific, with only a few strong structures surviving. Damage naturally peters out from ground zero. But all big explosions are affected by obstacles such as hills. Behind a hill may be a building that came through okay, while further out in the open will be another that went to pieces. The fires started don't exactly follow the rule book either. In here you might get a frying pan, and back here a fire.
I've got a very messy picture.
Me too. And where do we fit into this?
You'd be all right if you found a good spot. Underground and reinforced concrete shelters give good protection close to ground zero.
Yeah, but what about me? I'm the guy caught out in the open, stretched across Mother Earth's lap. How am I doing?
If you were near ground zero, within 3/4 of a mile from it and completely exposed, you'd be a dead duck, a roasted duck. And you'd also get a fatal dose of radiation. So what? Any weapon, even a knotted club, might kill you if you're unlucky enough to be in the wrong place. A safe might fall on your head accidentally. You particular how it happens? But if you were far enough away, you'd come through in good shape. And you'd be over the hump. So far as you're concerned, the bomb shot its big wad of blast, heat, and immediate radiation. It goes on sending out rays and particles, but they're rising harmlessly. In about 2 minutes after the explosion, the area underneath the burst will be free from dangerous radiation. And you can enter it. You've probably got military duties to perform. There's a lot of relief, rescue, and policing work to be done. So after waiting a couple of minutes, get moving. Okay, we survived that one. Now let's put ourselves on the spot again. Use our heads and our imaginations a bit more. Because maybe the enemy decides to set off a submarine bomb. Maybe he sneaked it into the harbor on an innocent-looking freighter and planted it underwater. Authorities figured it'd have to be plenty deep for the bomb to do its worst. We're going to suppose it's deep enough. Now, chances are you wouldn't get any warning about this baby. You'd sure see it, though. You wouldn't worry about being blasted or burned by a submarine explosion. But watch out for the fog and mist. It's radioactive, packed with poison, and it moves fast. If you saw it advancing on you a mile away, you'd have about 30 seconds to take cover. Make for the nearest entrance, but be orderly about it. That fog has contaminated everything it touched with radioactive matter, which we'll call hot stuff, although it hasn't anything to do with its temperature. Don't be in a hurry to leave your shelter. Wait till the fog disappears. Then wait a bit longer if you can. It cools off a lot the first few minutes after the blast. Gets less dangerous. It'd be best to wait until the radiological defense men come around to tell you what to do. But if you've got to go, go the right way. Your handkerchief makes a pretty fair filter. Breathe through it. Be quick or be sick. The faster you pass through a contaminated place, the less you expose yourself to radioactive poisoning. Move crosswind as much as possible. Take advantage of cover, of passageways protected from contamination. Don't collect souvenirs like watches and coins. They may be hot. You've gotten out of the danger zone. Your head's in its usual place, your skin still fits. You've got your normal quota of arms and legs. Souvenirs, you'll get some real pleasures out of. Sooner or later, you'll run into the radiological defense monitors. They're the detectives of this atomic business. With their instruments, they examine everything for radiation contamination, including you. If your uniforms are hot, they'll end up same as clothes after a skirmish with a skunk. They'll go to the laundry if they're not too hot. Or if they're too badly contaminated, they'll be buried or dumped at sea. And you'll give yourself the soap and water treatment to remove any radioactive stuff you might have collected. From then on, you'll watch your step. First, report to the nearest military officer or organization for instructions. As soon as they tell you to, rejoin your own organization. Your commander, on the advice of the radiological defense people, will tell you which areas are safe to enter and which aren't. They'll also advise them on the food you eat and the water you drink. You'll be careful about getting radioactive material inside you. You can get there by breathing dust, eating, or through breaks in the skin. You'll be told how to prevent overexposure to the stuff.
How much of it can a guy stand?
How much whiskey will it take to knock a guy in his ear?
Why, that depends.
It sure does. But the defense people can tell you what the safe limits are. And they'll keep checking in order to determine those limits. The odds on you surviving an A-blast depend a lot on you.
Okay, Sarge?
Right. Get panicky or fat-headed, and you'll probably have a new title. The late John Doe. Which isn't exactly a promotion. Use your think tank. Follow the rules, and you might live to look it over. That's the picture, men.
You're watching Sleepcore, media for insomnia.
This, our country and all its people, could be in danger of nuclear attack in minutes by enemy missiles, in hours by enemy aircraft. Our cities, our farms, our factories. Prime target would be our air bases. With all our aircraft on the ground, our weapons of interception or retaliation not instantly available, we might face another and infinitely more costly Pearl Harbor. To avoid surprise disaster, some of our aircraft must always be in the sky or on the alert, carrying nuclear weapons. These weapons are always unarmed. They will be armed only following a decision by the President of the United States. Only these ready aircraft with nuclear weapons can form our first-line deterrent force in peacetime, our sure striking force in case of attack. We, the American people, understand and accept this necessity for our survival. But we want to know the facts about one question. Do we live in danger of nuclear explosion and radioactive fallout if one of these airplanes should crash, or one of these nuclear weapons accidentally drop? To give you the facts, the United States Air Force presents This bomber carries a nuclear weapon. It is a well-designed, carefully maintained, skillfully flown airplane. But airplanes just like it have crashed and burned. There was no nuclear explosion, no radioactive fallout. These are the facts. The bombardier watches over controls as safe as human ingenuity can make them to prevent accidental bomb release. But nuclear weapons have been dropped inadvertently. There was no nuclear explosion, no radioactive fallout. These are the facts. And specially instrumented aircraft verify these facts in a continuing nuclear safety program that tests our nuclear weapons under controlled conditions that simulate every conceivable hazard. Vital to this nuclear safety program is Air Force Special Weapons Center at Albuquerque, New Mexico. Here, in ultra-modern laboratory buildings, work scientists in and out of uniform. They work with the incredibly complex equations of nuclear physics, which derive from Einstein's famous relationship of mass to energy. These cryptic figures, programmed into lightning-fast computers, are the theoretical base upon which these scientists, together with those of the Atomic Energy Commission, can build nuclear weapon safety. By research, design development, and laboratory test, they ensure weapons not yet built against accidental nuclear explosion. They have been doing this successfully since 1945 in safety conferences with other Defense Department agencies and the Atomic Energy Commission. In 13 years, there have been a few accidents, but not one has resulted in nuclear explosion or radioactive fallout. These are the facts. What keeps our nuclear weapons safe? To understand why there has never been an accidental nuclear explosion, you must first know how these explosions can be produced, the general principles of nuclear explosions.
Any explosion is the result of a very rapid release of a great amount of energy. Conventional explosions result from the rearrangement of whole atoms in some explosive material. For example, in TNT, the rearrangement of whole atoms of hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen produces explosive force. On the other hand, nuclear explosions result from the rearrangement within each atom. This may be a joining together or fusion, as in an H-bomb, or the splitting apart or fission, as in an A-bomb. At present, an H-bomb explosion starts with fission, so the splitting of the nucleus of the atom is the basic principle of nuclear weapons. All matter is composed of one or more of the 100-odd elements. Of these, the atoms of the metals uranium and plutonium can be most readily fissioned to cause nuclear explosion. These elements are mildly radioactive. They emit short-range, low-penetration alpha particles while in their unfissioned state. These alpha particles do not have the harmful effects of the longer range and stronger gamma rays, which are given off by certain elements such as radium or by the products of nuclear fission. The atoms of uranium and plutonium are among the heaviest. Heavy because the nucleus of each atom contains large numbers of the fundamental particles called protons and neutrons. When a free neutron hits this nucleus, it splits into two parts, releasing more neutrons which may go on to split other nuclei. The resulting fission products become highly radioactive, emitting the long-range and dangerous gamma rays. The split nucleus weighs less than the whole one, and this difference in weight is released in the form of energy, nuclear energy. After fission, harmful gamma radiation. Before fission, innocuous alpha radiation. To build up a nuclear energy release, the fissionable material must be of a certain size, shape, or density. Then one of the neutrons escaping from a split atomic nucleus will, in turn, split another, and a chain reaction is set up. The mass is now releasing nuclear energy, but not quickly enough to cause a nuclear explosion. This condition is called critical. If the mass is now suddenly increased, so that more neutrons are trapped each time an atomic nucleus is split, a multiplying chain reaction is maintained. Now the mass is supercritical, causing a nuclear explosion. Density of the fissionable material can be as important as mass in building up a nuclear explosion. The same sphere can be compressed so that the atoms are closer together and neutrons split more atomic nuclei, making the smaller mass critical. If compressed still more, a multiplying chain reaction sets in, causing the mass to become supercritical in a nuclear explosion. Nuclear weapons make use of both of these principles. A gun-type device can increase the mass of fissionable material to a supercritical state instantaneously. One subcritical mass is propelled forcibly into another by an ordinary powder charge. The increased mass becomes supercritical. A multiplying chain reaction builds up until the nuclear explosion. Obviously, if any mechanical device keeps these two subcritical masses apart, the weapon is nuclear safe. Applications of this fact prevent accidental nuclear explosions in gun-type weapons. Another kind of nuclear weapon is the implosion type. It compresses the fissionable material to greater density to make it supercritical. To do this, the sphere is enclosed by a shell of ordinary explosive designed to direct its explosive force inward. This effect is called implosion. The detonators attached to the explosive are connected to a complex firing device which can fire every detonator simultaneously. When all the explosive is detonated simultaneously, the nuclear material is compressed into a supercritical mass, which results in a nuclear explosion. Implosion-type weapons are nuclear safe because only the specially designed firing device can produce the simultaneous detonation of all the ordinary explosive, a deliberate effect possible only by the precise firing mechanism. Should a single detonator be fired accidentally, whether by malfunction, crash impact, or fire, the explosive would not provide the all-around compression necessary for implosion. Instead, it might push the nuclear material out of the shell, break it into small pieces, or even burn it. This unfissioned material emits only alpha particles because no nuclear explosion has taken place. These alpha particles do not penetrate the skin. The simplest precautions can prevent their intake into the body, and the simplest cleanup measures can remove them. So you see, each type of nuclear weapon has its own safeguards against accidental nuclear explosion. These are the facts.
And they are based upon practice as well as theory. Specially instrumented aircraft fly the tests that verify what happens inside a weapon, what accident hazards the nuclear components may have to withstand. Nuclear safety is everybody's business. Although Air Force flies the test missions, scientists and technicians from the Atomic Energy Commission and other services man the test range and evaluate the findings of the elaborate instrumentation. Drop tests measure impact characteristics of various weapon types. They are made without nuclear components so that this precious material is not wasted. They supplement the detonation tests that have been made with the complete nuclear weapons. Impact or shock does not cause nuclear explosion or radioactive fallout. What has exploded is the ordinary explosive, which is an essential part of nuclear weapons. The ordinary explosive in a nuclear weapon can be a hazard, exactly as in a conventional bomb. Depending upon the amount and location of the explosive and the speed and height of the drop, we may experience a variety of ordinary explosions. Large ones, small ones, or none at all from impact of the bomb. Beside the hazard of impact, frequent tests are run on the hazard of fire. To learn what temperatures and pressures would be created inside a weapon by an aircraft fire, various types of bombs are subjected to a flame bath of burning fuel. Because fire would also destroy the precious nuclear material, it is replaced by instruments. Their readings are compared with known characteristics of the fissionable material to assure that temperatures higher than any aircraft fire will not set off a nuclear explosion. The characteristic white flame indicates that the ordinary explosive is burning in the weapon. Sometimes the explosive detonates because of close confinement and intense heat. The effects of such explosions are measured and compared with those in an actual nuclear weapon. Fire and ordinary explosives do not create the conditions necessary for nuclear explosion. These are the facts. And on the vast desert ranges of the Atomic Energy Commission, the facts are verified by safety testing live prototypes of all new weapons before they go into production for our stockpile. The tests are costly in money and manpower, even more costly in the fissionable materials on which our nuclear strength depends. But they do provide insurance against nuclear accidents, which make them a bargain at any price. Some take place deep in the earth. Fantastically complex instruments replace the five senses. They record what happens when some of the explosive that surrounds the nuclear material of a new weapon is deliberately detonated. They record only an ordinary explosive blast. A random detonation has not created the implosion which would compress the nuclear material to a supercritical mass. There was no nuclear explosion, no radioactive fallout. Each new design must be proved nuclear safe, able to withstand accident, fire, or random explosive. Other tests with nuclear weapons are made above ground. These are also designed to test the nuclear safety of new weapon types by intentionally detonating the explosive which surrounds the fissionable material. Sometimes these tests also provide data on the side effects to be expected if the fissionable material is broken up by the explosion. Air samplers and test pads are used to gauge the area, intensity, and duration of these side effects. In this way, they learn not only what does not happen when a charge is deliberately fired, but what does. The explosive does break up the nuclear material and scatter parts of it over a small area. This fissionable material is mildly radioactive. If the explosion or fire should suspend any of this material in dust or smoke, it should not be inhaled or otherwise taken into the body in quantity. That is why the trained monitoring and cleanup crews may wear respirators until air samplers or alpha counters have determined that no injurious concentration exists. The alpha particles emitted do not penetrate skin or clothing, so this material is harmless when on the ground. Only simple cleanup measures are necessary, plus an effort to find and save the valuable material. The findings from all tests set up to measure possible radiological hazard are no external radioactive hazard from material on the ground, slight radioactive hazard from prolonged inhalation of material suspended in a small area near the accident, but none from the short exposures necessary for firefighting, rescue, or cleanup of the small area involved. These are the facts. Facts that have dispelled the fearsome myths about accidents involving nuclear weapons. For anyone near an accident, whether or not the crashed airplane carries a nuclear weapon, here are the safe and simple rules. Stay away from the crash unless you are needed for rescue. Bystanders endanger themselves and hamper others. To be safe, keep at least a quarter of a mile away from any burning airplane. At this distance, you are safe from the flames, which may explode the jet fuel, from detonating explosives, and from flying debris. These are the real dangers in rescue or firefighting, as they have always been. The trained men who bear these responsibilities know how to do their job and get quickly away from all these hazards. After the emergency is over, the area is monitored for radioactive material and, if necessary, cleaned up by specially trained teams. Other specialists care for burned or undetonated pieces of ordinary explosive. Until this is done, access to any crash area is controlled to prevent accidents and speed up the work. The tests you have seen have proved the safety of our nuclear weapons program over and over again. But the grim reality is the payoff. How safe is a nuclear bomber coming in for a crash landing? Not the impact of the crash landing, nor the fire which often follows, not even detonation of the ordinary explosive in the weapon, cause nuclear explosion or radioactive fallout. The safety that was designed in during research, built in during development, proved in the laboratory and on the range, has withstood the ultimate tragic test. These are the facts. They prove that you, the American people, can stay both safe and strong. Safe because the weapons your Air Force must carry have been tested nuclear safe. The possibility of an accidental nuclear explosion is so small as to be practically non-existent. Strong because an Air Force, nuclear-armed and combat-ready, stands guard against surprise attack. Under this shelter, you and your family may live in peace, free from the fear of nuclear accidents.